How car dealerships treat you at every credit score. You sit in a small back office with fluorescent lighting that hums audibly, a finance manager sliding a printout across a chipped laminate desk without quite meeting your eyes. The number in the top corner says 561. He doesn't say the number out loud. He just taps it once with a pen, the way someone points at a stain they'd rather not discuss directly. He says the special financing program can work with almost anyone, a sentence delivered in the exact tone people use for something they don't actually believe. Rewind, credit score 540. You are 19, standing on a used car lot with your father, both of you looking at a 10-year-old sedan with a crack in the windshield and 140,000 miles on the odometer. A salesman named Gary approaches, takes one look at your clothes and your father's work boots, and steers you both toward the back row before you've said a single word about budget. He doesn't ask what you're looking for. He just starts talking about buy here, pay here, a phrase that sounds friendly and turns out to mean something closer to a trap with a payment schedule attached. Your father asks about the interest rate. Gary says something vague about it depends, which you'll later learn means whatever number they think you'll accept without pushing back. You drive off the lot that day in a car with a 24% APR, a number neither of you fully understands the weight of yet. Credit score 580. 2 years later, the transmission on that car starts slipping and you're back at a different lot. Younger salesman this time. Name tag that says Kevin. Kevin runs your credit before you've even picked a car, glances at the screen, and his whole posture shifts. Shoulders relaxing in a way that has nothing to do with friendliness and everything to do with recalculating how much effort you're worth. He walks you past the newer inventory without stopping, parks you in front of cars with visible dents and mismatched paint. You ask about a blue sedan near the front of the lot, the one that actually caught your eye. Kevin says that one's already spoken for, a phrase you'll hear 4 more times over the next 2 years for 4 different cars you show interest in. You buy the car with the mismatched paint. Credit score 610. You're 23 now, working steadily, and you walk into a dealership with a pre-approval letter from your credit union in hand, something a coworker told you to get first. The salesman, a heavyset man named Ron, looks at the letter and his expression flickers, something between surprise and mild annoyance, like you've shown up with your own weapon to a fight he expected to win easily. He tries anyway, walks you toward their in-house financing just to compare, a rate that turns out to be 4 points higher than what you're already holding in your hand. You decline politely. Ron's friendliness cools by exactly the amount you'd expect, though he still shakes your hand at the end, a transaction of manners as calculated as the one you just avoided. Credit score 650. You're 25, buying your first car entirely on your own terms. No father standing beside you this time. No coworker's advice needed because you've learned enough to walk in prepared. The finance manager, a woman named Denise this time, not the same Denise from years of other stories, but similarly unimpressed by paperwork that doesn't immediately impress her, runs your credit and actually smiles, a small, genuine one. She says your score puts you solidly in the middle, which she delivers like a compliment, though you notice she still doesn't offer the best rate on the sheet until you ask directly if it's the best they have. It isn't, not until you ask. You get a rate half a point better than the first number on the page, a half point that took nothing more than one direct question you didn't know to ask 3 years earlier. Credit score 690. You're 27, and a coworker named Priya asks if you'll come with her to buy her first car since her own credit is thin, and she's nervous about being taken advantage of the way she's heard happens. You go with her on a Saturday and you watch, almost as an outside observer now, the exact playbook you once lived through happen to someone else in real time. The salesman steers her toward the older inventory before she said a word about budget. You step in, calmly, and ask to see the newer models instead, watching his expression recalibrate the moment 2 people instead of 1 are standing in front of him, one of whom clearly knows the script. Priya gets a fair deal that day, better than you got at her exact same credit score, not because the system changed, but because someone stood next to her who already knew where the traps were buried. Credit score 720. You're 29, and you walk into a dealership for a routine oil change on your current car, and the sales floor manager, recognizing you from a purchase 2 years earlier, waves you over personally instead of letting you sit in the waiting room. He asks almost casually if you've thought about upgrading. mentions a new model with a rate he can make work for someone with your credit profile. You're not there to buy anything, but the tone of the conversation is unmistakably different from Gary's tone a decade earlier. Warmer, more collaborative, an invitation instead of a sorting mechanism. You decline politely, and he doesn't cool the way Ron once did. He just nods, hands you a card, says to call directly next time instead of walking in cold. An offer of a shortcut that didn't exist for you at 540. Credit score 760. You're 31, helping your younger cousin, Marcus, buy his first car after his own credit took a hit from a medical bill he's still paying off. The dealership this time treats you like the primary customer the moment you walk in with him, addressing you first, deferring to your questions, even though the car is entirely for Marcus and the financing will be entirely in his name. You have to redirect the conversation twice. Insist they speak to Marcus directly. Watch his face shift from confused to slightly wounded, as he realizes in real time that his own credit score just made him invisible in a transaction that's supposed to be his. You tell him afterward, quietly in the car, that it's not personal, that the system doesn't see people, it sees three-digit numbers wearing people as a kind of loose disguise. He asks how long it took you to stop feeling it as personal. You tell him honestly, longer than it should have. Credit score 800. You're 34 and you walk into a dealership specifically because you're curious, not because you need a car, testing something you've suspected for a while now. You dress deliberately unremarkable, plain clothes, nothing that signals anything about your finances, and you watch the finance manager's face when your credit pulls up. He doesn't just relax. He becomes almost deferential, offering rates before you ask, mentioning loyalty programs and manufacturer incentives you didn't know existed, treating the entire interaction less like a negotiation and more like a service he's grateful to provide. You ask him, out of genuine curiosity, what the rate would be for someone with a 560. He pauses, visibly uncomfortable, then quotes a number that makes you do quick mental math, more than 4 times what he just offered you without you asking. He says, almost apologetically, that's just how the risk models work. The car never changed. The showroom never changed. The number attached to your name did, and that number rearranged an entire building's worth of behavior around you before a single word about who you actually are ever got spoken. The midpoint. You think about Gary, the first salesman, the one who steered a father and his teenage son toward the back row without asking a single question first. You wonder if Gary knew even slightly what he was doing, or if the sorting had become so automatic to him that it stopped registering as a choice years before you ever met him. You'll never know, and the not knowing bothers you more than a clear answer would have. You start noticing the pattern everywhere once you know to look for it, not just at dealerships, but in every institution built around a number standing in for a person, each one running the same quiet sorting mechanism in the background of ordinary transactions. The return. You think back to the small back office, the fluorescent hum, the finance manager tapping a printout he didn't want to say out loud, the number 561 sitting in the corner like something shameful. You didn't understand at 19 that the number wasn't a verdict on your character. It was closer to a costume the building put on you the moment you walked in, one that determined which doors opened easily and which required you to already know they existed. You've spent years learning where the doors are. Some of that knowledge came from being sorted into the back row. Some of it came from standing next to Priya and then Marcus, watching the exact same sorting mechanism try to run on people you cared about, and stepping in front of it on purpose. Nobody warns you that credit scores sort more than loan approvals. They sort attention, patience, respect, the basic assumption of good faith that most people extend to each other, automatically, until a three-digit number tells them not to. You did not choose the number you carried at 19. You do choose now what you do with the doors that finally opened. Somewhere right now, a father and his teenage son are standing on a used car lot, the salesman already calculating, before either of them has said a word, which row of inventory they belong in. They don't know yet that the number in that moment isn't really about them. They don't know yet that in 12 years, one of them will walk into a different lot in different clothes and watch the entire building change its posture around a number instead of a person, and finally understand what happened to them that first day. You know that part now. They don't. Not yet.